Would members of the Licensing and Standards Committee please report to Committee Room 1? Please report to Committee Room 1. Thank you.
Members of the committee, please have a seat. We do have a quorum. Good morning, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order. Welcome to the 26th meeting of the License Standards Committee. I would like to extend a warm welcome to members of the public and those watching the proceedings online or TV. As usual, I would like to remind everyone that you can find the agenda for today's meeting and follow the meeting in real time at www.toronto.ca/council. The Licensing Standards Committee gratefully acknowledges that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Mississauga of New Credit Nation, First Nation, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat, and home to many diverse indigenous peoples. Any conflicts of interest to be declared under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Members of the committee? If not, no, noted. Can I have a motion to confirm the minutes of the License Standards Committee meeting of May the 4th? The Vice Chair, Councilor Carijanes. All those in favor? Against? Carried. Speakers, we have a list of speakers on 3 items. Yes, point of order, Councilor Di Giorgio.
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
I have a motion I wanted to put forward, but I'm just wondering, would you go through the items first and then I'll place my motion, or would you rather I place my motion now?
It's
Essentially, I'm.
no, we can just please go ahead.
Could the clerk put that up? Or,
Let's see what you have.
essentially, I'm asking that the speakers list be closed off at 10:30, and anyone that wishes to speak to any of the items put their names up before 10:30. And I'm asking that each of the speakers, simply because of the nature of the items that are before us and the recommendations of the items, I'm asking that the speakers be limited in their deputations to 3 minutes. And similarly, questions from members of the council, visiting members, and council members on the committee, their questions be limited to 3 minutes, and their speaking time be limited to 3 minutes. Obviously, other members of the committee do not necessarily have to support that, but that's what I'm putting forward, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Di Giorgio. This is a procedural motion that's in order. All those in favor of what's before us? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Chair, I do have a motion also.
Yes, please.
If the staff can put it up, please. Chair, item 2018 LS 26.4. This item will refer to the Executive Director of Municipal Licensing Standards for further review and consultations with industry stakeholders and report back to License Committee in 2019. Although I'm a great advocate of what is in front of us, I don't think it's fully baked. It needs to be discussed. We cannot do just one-offs. I had a motion about similar stuff, and I have to concur with staff that we need to take this as a whole package versus one item at a time.
So is the purpose of these recommendations to refer to the city staff and for them to report back in 2019?
No.
Now is that's fine, and however, we have a list of speakers in item 4. So if and this has to do with the transfer of the taxi cab license, accessible taxi services. Now, if these recommendations goes forward, members of the public do have the right to speak on this item because it's a public item scheduled for deputations. But I will encourage, if that motion carries, that you can speak on item number 3, and it relates to literally the same thing in terms of the work plan. So that's one of the comments that I'll make. So we have a motion before us that's to refer item number 4 to city staff. All those in favor? Against? Carry.
Mr. Chair, I have a point of personal privilege, if I could.
Point of privilege, and Deputy Mayor, dear Mickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just noticed that I'll do my point of privilege in 5 minutes from now.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's a good start.
Wait, sorry, Mr. Chair. I could do my point of privilege now if Councillor Davis is with us. Mr. Chair, I just noticed our colleague, Councillor Davis, is with us here. I've been on this committee for 8 years, and I think Councillor Davis has probably attended almost as many meetings as I have. I was a member of the Works Committee for 7 years before that, starting in 2003. And I think Councillor Davis attended as many or more Works Committee meetings as I did. So I know that Councillor Davis, for 15 years, a decade and a half, has been and is an extraordinary councillor. She's put her heart and soul into everything she's done. She fights for the people in every corner of the city. I've been very honored to work with her as a colleague on council. She makes my job easier, certainly on a number of issues, including the daycare file, because I don't really have to research the daycare file sometimes too deeply. All I have to do is support whatever Councillor Davis puts forward on the floor of council, and I know everything is in good hands. So I would just like to acknowledge our council colleague and thank her. She's announced her retirement yesterday. I just wanted to tip my hat to her, and I'm sure all of us on this committee respect her passion and admire how tenacious she is in making sure that every person in the city has a chance to reach their potential. And I hope that we will fill her shoes well as we move forward and make this city a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go through the agenda now. Is any items that we don't have deputants, I will call them as otherwise. Item number 1, Toronto Licensing Tribunal 2016 and 2017 annual reports. We don't have any speakers. Move the recommendations. That's to receive the recommendations. All those in favor? That's the first item. All those in favor? Against? Carry. Thank you. Item number 2, we have deputants, so I'll be holding that item. Number 3, we have deputants, I'll be holding that item. And number 4, the item has been referred to staff, but once again, all the deputants within that list, please feel free to speak on item number 3. So we have 8 speakers that were listed on item number 4. Also, thank you. Also, we have, in terms of communications, we have a communication from the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Di Veramaker, as a new item. For this item to be introduced is we need a motion to add this as a new item. I'll be more than glad to move this item to be added to the agenda. All those in favor?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I can, it's the clerk circulating it now. I'd like to permission.
So we'll hold on to it for the introduction.
Yeah, I just want to let people know what it is. It's a request to add a new item of business, and it's titled "The Installation of Mural at the Wali Yaser East Campus Muslim School" through the StreetARToronto program. This is a school that's been the victim of some racist graffiti on 3 occasions, so we're just wanting to move that onto the agenda.
So are we okay with that? It's actually, I did speak to the Deputy Mayor, and this is an item that's within the graffiti management plan, and that will enhance the street art aspect, especially when it comes to deal with items and of hate and discrimination as it happened. So I think this is a good recommendation, and I'll be more than glad to support this. So to add? Okay, so we'll introduce this a little bit later. Councillor Nunciana is holding the item for a second. So we'll go to item number 2, 2-year extension for stationary food trucks, R55 curb lane vending permits. We have 2 speakers. Is Councillor Fletcher, please.
Did you already vote on number 1?
Yeah. There is no deputants on that.
Will that go to council?
No, it's not going to.
So questions, we don't get to ask any questions about, I came to ask questions about number 1, actually.
The item has been received and voted on already.
I think, Mr. Chair, as a courtesy, I wasn't aware that one of our colleagues had questions, so I'd move to reopen the issues to allow the councillor to
I'll be
ask
more than
questions.
glad to do that. I did speak to it, Councillor Fletcher.
Sorry, I couldn't, there was so much going on, I
Okay,
didn't hear
that's
that.
fair.
Chair.
So there is
Couldn't understand
a
it.
request from Councillor Fletcher, from the Deputy Mayor to reopen the item. All those in favor? And so there are questions on that item from Councillor Fletcher to city staff. So let's deal with it. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's
Let's deal with it.
questions. Why, it's item number 1, and you've reopened it. I understand that. You're the speaker. Should be more gracious.
It's
The chair of the licensing tribunal is here.
yeah.
so
We
that's what
we
we're
do
trying to
have
accommodate.
the chair of the licensing tribunal here. So I think, as a courtesy to the chair of the licensing tribunal, I think that it's a request that I'll be more than glad to entertain. Councillor Fletcher, please go ahead.
There's
3 minutes.
a couple of questions, and I'm noticing that your work,
Isn't the item being held? Isn't the item being held? That's been held. Why are we breaking protocol? You held the item, Councilor, right?
No, she did not.
Okay.
No, she did not.
the chair of the licensing tribunal is here. Would you like him to sit for the whole day prior to
Councillor
being
Fletcher,
able
please
to
go
answer
ahead.
some questions?
Please go ahead.
Mr. Chair?
Please go
Is
ahead.
that what your committee members think is a wise use of his time?
Councillor Fletcher, please go ahead. You have
Thank you so
2 minutes.
much. I noticed that you have a tremendous, yes? Oh, it's not the chair. That's the deputant for item 2. Oh, I see. Okay. So we're not on item 1 then.
Do we have the
Okay.
chair of the
I'm
tribunal?
happy to ask the staff a question. I thought the chair was sitting down there.
So through to you, Mr. Chair, I understand that the chair of the TLT is currently seized with a matter at the tribunal and cannot be here today.
So let me just ask the staff then, Mr. Chair. I'm noticing from this report that he indicates that they have quite their workload has increased substantially.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is the chair's report, so I won't comment on whether his workload or not. The numbers are there as far as the volumes.
The volumes because there is a lawyer who attends from the city, would you concur that the volume has increased for this tribunal?
So through you, Mr. Chair, 2016 was an increase. 2017 was actually a decrease in volumes. We have 2 annual reports before us.
Okay.
So maybe it's the 2016 you're looking at, which, yes, would have been an increased volume.
All right.
The
And
2017 shows a decrease.
And now we have both of the reports, which is great to have them. I'm just looking under 2016 licensing categories. And looking here, there's one ambassador taxi license, taxi driver license, taxi cab owners, contraventions, applications for renewal, new applicant, and a lot of contraventions for taxis. I'm just wondering at what place and how anybody can make a complaint about an Uber driver or somebody who is working for Uber, and how that would be shown here.
So
At the
through
tribunal.
you, Mr. Chair, so this report details those matters that have been referred to the TLT, either by our licensing staff or enforcement staff. It includes those who have made appeals based on a potential denial of a license for threshold breaches. So any complaints in respect to service of a regulated business is made through 311 or through us directly. They're investigated, charges are laid, and where necessary, matters will be referred to the TLT. So people don't make a complaint directly to the TLT on any licensing category.
So they make a complaint to staff?
To us, yes, ma'am.
So, and so you've never had an Uber complaint then?
Through
Or is
you-
there not a way to do that at the tribunal? Is there a spot for Uber at the tribunal?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, these are not complaints, these are matters that have been referred to the TLT under their jurisdiction as a quasi-judicial panel. We have received complaints and we have undertaken investigations in respect to Uber in the last year. It's not in the TLT report. From an enforcement perspective, just around shy of 600 matters that have been investigated in respect to PTC, Uber, and against various entities, obviously, various drivers. None of those matters have yet have been required to go to TLT for threshold or other issues. That's not in the TLT report.
So that's not in this year's report?
No, there are no
question.
matters. So through 2016, 2017, through you, Mr. Chair, by the TLT Chair's report, we have not referred a matter related to Uber as a licensed entity to the TLT.
So are we only having 3 minutes questions? Sorry.
Councillor Davis.
Sorry, we only having 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Questions? Oh, okay.
Councillor Davis, please.
So I'd like to just follow on that. At least with the annual report from the licensing tribunal, we get to see the overall systemic picture related to taxi infractions and license status. How are we going to see the kind of information, similar information, in a public domain about Uber and other vehicle rideshare programs?
So through you, Mr. Chair, just for clarity, Councillor Davis, the only matters that are being reported to here are those that have gone through the Toronto Licensing Tribunal process.
I understand
right?
that.
And this is not reflective of the full suite of enforcement activities that we undertake. What you will see in the TLT reports are those matters that have made it to the TLT. Certainly through other discussions, other reports, when we want to discuss the enforcement picture in relation to other license categories, we can do that in other contexts.
Do we do that?
Yeah, so on one of the matters we have here today is the work plan for VFH. Certainly, I've mentioned already some numbers. I can provide some additional enforcement detail in that respect. I just don't want to conflate our enforcement efforts with the chair's annual report.
I understand that. So then, just to be clear, the new licenses for vehicle for hire for Uber and Lyft and others, if there are violations of traffic violations, criminal acts, they do not then go before the licensing tribunal. Is that correct?
No, through you, Mr. Chair. So Chapter 546, which governs taxi, limo, PTC, all under the vehicle for hire, are all subject to the thresholds and are all subject to the regulations of that chapter. In accordance with that chapter, we take matters forward to the TLT as is appropriate and dictated by the provisions of Chapter 546, equally applicable to all.
I understand how the current taxi system works and the thresholds. Those taxi license holders get brought before the tribunal. I want you to clarify for Uber drivers, if they have similar violations and they would have reached the threshold that would have normally for a taxi driver meant they would appear before the licensing tribunal, do Uber drivers get treated the same way? Uber license holders?
That was the last question.
So through you, Mr. Chair, there is a specific distinction with any driver who's a member of a PTC. And in our screening criteria, it says that we shall deny an application for a renewal of a vehicle for hire driver and PTC driver license. No PTC is can allow a person to act as a PTC driver where the licensee or applicant has and follows the thresholds. So when we have issues with PTC drivers, we notify the platform that driver is affiliated with, and they are removed from providing service.
And we don't see that before a tribunal?
No, we do not. We have the authority.
That was the last question.
And how many have been...
Councillor Davis, that was the last question. Thank you. Any other questions from any other members of the committee?
I could probably find it.
If not, any speakers on it? Any speakers on the item? If not, speakers on the item. Councillor Davis, please
I
go ahead.
understand this is a
3 minutes.
report of the tribunal from the tribunal chair. But what our licensing tribunal does is it provides a forum, not just to provide for, it's a quasi-judicial body that allows the city to deal with license holders who are, in our opinion, not practicing their licensed profession in a way that meets the standards that we require. And so they go before the tribunal and are subject in a public forum and we get to hear publicly what were the conditions under which this license is being reviewed, and it may be suspended or revoked. But we know in a public forum about those violations and whether or not the thresholds have been met. Right now, it sounds like there were 600 investigations of Uber drivers. We don't know the outcome of those. We don't know how many met the thresholds. We don't know how many Uber removed from the platform. So I think there has to be some way that the statistics that relate to Uber drivers and their performance of their jobs with the license that they hold, the PTC license, so that the public can understand how Uber and Lyft are performing in the City of Toronto. And I do believe we need to ask for some new way of reporting, and I know this will come up probably in item number 3 as well, but I do think we should be asking for public reporting of statistics related to the performance of PTC license holders in the City of Toronto on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Any other speaker on the item?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
my apologies. I haven't given my motion to the clerks yet, but I'm going to move essentially what Councillor Davis's suggestion was. So I'm going to move, and if the clerks can just do it, my apologies. Move that we ask the Toronto Licensing Tribunal to report out on the.
It is not in the purview of the licensing.
No? Okay, then we can't do it.
Can't do it.
Executive director.
Can I ask the executive?
You can do it under,
We don't
yeah.
want to conflate the TLT with
Yeah.
enforcement.
Okay.
Certainly, we can do that in respect to the work plan item if you'd like.
For council.
Okay, so I'm just, Mr. Chair, confirming with staff, and we have a commitment that you're going to put that in your report that's coming in early 2019? Okay, then I don't need to move a motion.
So that will be part of the work plan for 2019. Okay, great. So we have a motion from Councillor Sierra. All those in to receive the item. All those in favor? Against? So we have deal with item number 1. Now we'll move to item number 2, and that's 2-year extension for stationary food trucks, known as R55 curb lane vending permits. And the first speaker is Bernard Garcia. Good morning. Good to have you here. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I represent numerous R55 curb lane permit holders, and it's proposed that they have an extension of their permits for the time being at least until 2022, which we thank the committees and the council for their support in the past. We urge that this be extended further to 2032, as most owners of these permits are families, and they've been in the family for many, many years. And it would be hoped that they could live out their lives for the second of the passing of the husband or wife to complete their mission of these trucks. So we're urging that we appreciate the extension proposed to 2022, but we would ask the committee investigating to extend it even further for a consideration of another 10 years, so that the families of these family-owned businesses could continue operating the way they have. The main opposition to this is from the mobile trucks, which is a separate matter altogether. It's a different animal, and it shouldn't interfere with them. They shouldn't be concerned about them. They're just concerned that they want to get the spots of the curb lane R55s. But really, The system has been working well for many, many years. It should continue to work well. And we urge the committee to allow a further extension or to investigate a further extension of the curb lane permits.
That it? Great. Any questions to the deputant? And visiting members? If not, we'll go to the committee. Councilor Sierra, please go ahead.
Yes, so in the report, there were consultation meetings, and it was recommended to 2022, and it seemed like everyone agreed on that.
No, we're not opposed to that. We support that
Yeah.
fully. But we're asking when they're investigating, they don't want to extend it to 222 to do further investigation. So we're seeking that while they're doing this further investigation, they can consider extending it further to at least 2032 as part of their further investigation. So we support the report as far as it goes. We just want to go further to extend it further. Because of the whole purpose, it's done well over the years for the city and for the permit holders. We just want it to continue. There's no opposition other than the mobile truck operators who are a completely different animal, serve a different purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sierra. Any other questions? If not, thank you for your presentation. We'll move on to the next speaker, Peter Bugadis. Good morning, Peter. Good to have you here. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. You give me one more opportunity to explain you a little bit about the vending. The vending, you start 1958, 1962, we have the first ice cream trucks in Toronto. We're working so hard, all the families, to support the families, the kids go to university and so on and on. About 1992, he started to have a zoo in Toronto. They had the cart system come from States, more ice cream truck is coming, and Mayor Eggleston, he asked me that time with Jack Layton and a council, all the councils together, they asked me how to find one solution, everybody's city and the vendors to be happy. And we find the solution. The R55 is working perfect for 30 years. We don't have no problems. No more vending on the downtown. Everybody here have locations. Everybody he knows get up in the morning. He knows they're going to work. Now, if you start to change it, the R55 and you come to R54, Mr. Chairman, you're going to square one. What I mean to square one, everybody going to come downtown. The fight already on University Avenue. 7 o'clock in the morning, the French fries truck, they don't have a spot. They fight who's going to get first, who's going to get last. That's you want in the city, to start the fights again in the street, in the front of the public, in the tourist area, in the front of the city hall, in the harbor front, and the front street. I think so, Mr. Chairman, you go back to square one is not a good idea. Just continue to support the R55, leave the people who have the permits, extend it another 10 years, and see how they're going to go. But I think, so in my opinion, we're going well for 30 years. Why we have to change it? I don't see why. I asked very nice the other party, the other vendors, to find locations and get to R55. They don't want to pay these people. It's up to them. What do you want me to do? I can't go to that rules and they don't come to us. The us rules is working for 30 years. Mr. Chairman, please, and ladies and gentlemen, support to stay at the R55. We don't want to lose it.
Thank you, Mr. Bugadis. You have questions and visiting members? If not, Deputy Mayor De Veramaker, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you, through Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for coming in today. Can you tell me when, I guess, when you started selling ice cream?
I started, Mr.
Yeah.
1962. Around in the neighborhood, around in the front of the city hall. The time the city hall built it up, my ice cream truck is outside and selling ice cream.
And if you don't mind, you know, you don't have to answer, but how old were you roughly when you started in 1962?
I'll be only 18 years old.
You were 18 years old, and that was 50 years ago, so you're a little older now.
Yes.
So like the gentleman before you, are you asking us to extend your license until you, I'll call it, retire?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the longer you extend it is better for us. But 2 years, the motion you asked for 2 years is not really enough. For 2 years, what are you going to do for 2 years? Still, some people, some families, they have mortgage to pay in the house. Some people, they have kids on University Avenue. What are you going to do? If for 2 years you throw them out, they don't have it. Any other support. Who's going to take a 55, 60 years old man to go to work? Nobody's going to take it.
Right. And through you, Mr. Chair, if my memory is correct, I think it was back in 1999, perhaps, when I worked in this building. I think it was Councillor Jack Layton at the time and Councillor McConnell. I think they came to this committee back then to ask that it be extended. So this is not the first time it's been extended.
No, few years they will extend us and extend us, and we appreciate that.
So the local councillors, again, they're not with us now, but the local councillors at the time, Councillor Jack Layton, Councillor Pam McConnell, were supportive of letting you stay where you are.
Yes, everybody support. Even Mayor Eglinton and Mayor Leisman, he support us to stay to that locations because they see it how organized we've been. All the hot dog carts and ice cream trucks and the French fries trucks, we have a location. We're happy, the public is happy. Not only for us, we make a few dollars. The public is happy because he knows he's going to come in front of the City Hall, he's going to get ice cream, he's going to get his fries. The tourists, every morning he get off on a bus and come outside in the City Hall, they see it. They jump on the trucks to get first the fries or the ice cream and go back again to Niagara Falls or wherever they're going with a tourist bus. We help it's a colorful for the city.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Carichanis. 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And Mr. Bogadas, thank you for coming down today. You've been out there for about 52 years, 51 years? I mean, longer than City Hall is existing. Would I be correct?
Yes.
Besides the problems that we're talking about to extend the situation, do yourself or the other vendors have any difficulties on when they're roaming on the streets? You know, when, like between 4 and 6, there's certain areas you can't be. And these people, sort of until the traffic stop, I mean, the traffic situation alters, they were going around roaming. Is there any other problems that they face?
Mr. Council, I'll tell you one thing. The time we put the system together was all the vendors to come down to find the solution. And you know what the solution is? Wherever location everybody is working, the location he's going to get. I work in the front.
I think, Mr. Bogadas, sir, I think you didn't answer my question. My question was, besides the locations, if there is between 7 and 9 and 4 and 6, there are certain locations that you have to move because of the traffic at those hours, and you're moving your trucks in neighborhoods.
Yes.
Is there problems that you have in those neighborhoods? That
yes.
Can you please describe those problems?
The 60s, we don't have no problems. The kids wait for us. They're happy to see the ice cream truck. Oh, summertime is coming. Springtime is coming. Everybody, family is happy. Right now, Mr. Chairman, we're going to the streets, and the bylaw officer, he's come behind us all the time. You know, parking, no standing area. And he takes us to court. We can't survive with this kind of rules the city is making. We can't survive. Because if you come in and find out excuses with all small streets, no parking, no standing, how the ice cream truck can survive? I never have an accident. I never hurt any kids on the street. Why now they told me to go opposite, to go the other side of the street? Because if I go the other side of the street and I'm parking, somebody's going to hurt. And you're not going to blame? You're going to blame me. I don't want it happens. I think so the staff is making a wrong decision. Let the trucks, they know where they're parking, and they don't hurt nobody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Not. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for your presentation. The next deputant is Juan Restituto. Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
My concerns, I would like to talk about the R55, because somehow, like Mr. Peter was talking about, that was in plan by Judge Layton, with the condition the people we didn't been together. And they've been working for a long time very well without a problem. But now they come in, they are 54, and they want to take our sport away to give it to these people. I don't believe. Well, I was waiting somebody listen because, you know, I go into my house sleeping to myself. And when I was talking, Judge Layton put that thing in plant. It was very good. They worked very well until that people, the R54 coming, and now they want our sport, and they want to take us out with the condition to put it another people in. It doesn't make no sense when we've been working so well. Also, you guys are giving some 100 new license. If they give the opportunity to get a permit, if from the 100 people, only 3 people took a permit. I mean, they're not too much interested. They're looking for a new location or to look for another place can be and building out, because everybody we did, and the all 54, is building the location. Building location, the people know you, they say hi, and they start get familiar things, and that's that. The second thing I like to talk and why some people are, they can put the track and the son name, because I get into work to that work. I like to translate to my son, or making a corporation, or translate to my son the business, and I just taking my fishing, my time to go fishing for a little while before I die. I mean, if we have it by law, we should do okay to implant. They say, okay, you can pass to the USAN for the year they come in, because you have the power to take the license away and the permits away anytime you want. And that's good. I don't see the point. I like to see we can maybe with put my son's name for Easter, or incorporate it. I can retire because almost everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Restituto.
Retire.
Thank you, Mr. Restituto. It's only 3 minutes and that being quite flexible. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions to the deputant? Councilor Munciano, please go ahead.
So you support the recommendation that we have?
Well, yeah, because you have the power to put the recommendation that you want. I don't.
You're happy with what the report says?
The report is 2 years. I mean, the report says we stay in the same spot more than 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think that will be a very good idea, because 2 years after we've been working for so many years,
Yeah.
now you have 2 years to move the house.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you so much for coming down to speak to the committee. The next deputant is James Ba Baracus. Good morning, sir. Good to have you here. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes, and the clock is there.
Okay. I'm been in street vending for 54 years. I thought the last time they give it to us for life, long ago we live. Now they want to take it away. Let us die first, and then you take it away. We work hard out there, very hard. My kids couldn't take it. They go to TC drivers. So let us work till we die. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, and Vice Chair Karigiannis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the Deputy. Mr. Villarichis, good morning, and thank you for coming down. Sir, what would be a good year for us to, let's say, to think about moving this to? We heard 2032. There's some rumors about 2025, 2022. What, in your opinion, would be a good? Would it be 2032 or 2025 or 2022?
We thought when we get these permits, we're going to have it the rest of our lives. That's what I want.
So, what
the rest
year?
of life,
what,
the people
what year?
die, they take it away.
Sorry, my question, sir, is very simple.
Don't, I speak European language, sorry, I should have an interpreter here. What, say that again, maybe?
What year would you like to see this move to? Like, I mean, there's a willingness in order to postpone this. Staff is recommending 2022. Some people are saying 2025, and we heard from the first deputy in 2032.
I say the rest of our life.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you for coming down. Thank you for your presentation. And that ends up the list of deputants on this item. And now we'll move to questions to staff. Visiting members of council. If not, we move to the committee. Deputy Mayor De Beramaker, followed by Councilor Nunziata. Please go ahead, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope that I'll call it your collective corporate memory is better than mine, because I think I worked in this building in 1999, and I believe that's the year that then Councillor Jack Layton and Councillor Pam McConnell, if my memory is correct, came to licensing committee and extended the licenses. So would I be correct in saying that the licenses for these stationary, I call them ice cream vendors and hot dog vendors, for example, has been extended for quite a while?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I wasn't here at the time, but we do know that the R55 stationary vendors have been in those locations for at least since the 90s.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I hope our last deputant lives for a very long time and has a very healthy life. But if he was to pass next year, does his license come back to the city?
So through you, Mr. Chair, there's two different components. We're not talking about the business license. This is about the R55 permit, the permit to occupy a piece of the city's street.
Yes.
For the exclusive use of the vendor.
Yes.
Those are not transferable. They are renewed annually.
So they are not transferable, meaning that if I was a vendor and I had that right and I passed away, or I retired, or I moved to Florida or Vancouver to visit, live with family, that would be surrendered back to the city.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Where it's an individual owner operator and they cease operating,
yes,
yes, then the permit would be canceled. Where it's a matter of an incorporated entity, it's possible that there's a shift in directorship. They could maintain the permit space.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Nunziata, please go ahead.
So if the committee moved a motion today to extend it to 2032, you wouldn't have a problem with that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, it's not up to myself, Councilor.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but
It's absolutely up to council. We brought the street food report in 2014, which created the mobile vending regime. At that point, we recommended ceasing these 27 at the time, now 23 stationary vendors in 2016. That was extended to 2020. We were asked to look in 2015 at extending that. We thought we would have brought back a fulsome report prior to this. We were not able to. That's why this report recommends an additional 2 years. But absolutely, the decision in respect to this matter and the length of time that these R55 permit holders may occupy the streets right of way is 100% a decision of council. and we'll enact as you see fit.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor De Veramaker, followed by Vice Chair Caligianis.
This is my second round. I'll let the,
That's good.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to staff. Good morning, and thank you for your reports. I realize you answered the first question about what we'll move it to, and it's up to us. My second, as a follow-up, and I'm intending to move a motion to this effect. We've heard through deputants that they do find problems during the traffic hours, like between 7 and 9 and 4 to 6, when they have to move off major streets and they're roaming side streets, that they do have ticketed, and they're I wouldn't want to use the word harass, but there's been difficulties that they have with bylaw officers. I was wondering if you can take a couple of months, if you'd be willing to look at that problem, talk to stakeholders, and come back with a report. Would that be something that you'll be willing to entertain?
So yes, through you, Mr. Chair, the stationary R55s are not required to vacate, but absolutely where any of our business operators are having trouble operating, we're happy to look at that and see if there's opportunity for us to mitigate any impacts as a result.
Thank you.
And any other questioners? If not, there is a request to have a second round. All those in favor? Against? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, and my apologies, I overlooked it in my first round. In response to my question, do the licenses come back to the city? You said yes, if it's an individual, the license comes back to the city, but if it's a corporation, there could be a change of directorship. Can you tell me roughly how many of those licenses or spots are held by individuals versus corporations?
So through you, Mr. Chair, just for clarity, the business license is separate from this, which is the R55 permits.
Yes.
We are trying to determine the number of the 23 that are held in corporations versus individual. I don't have that handy.
Okay.
But just bearing in mind that this is subject to whatever determination is made of council on how long those permits will be required, permitted locations will be permitted to be occupied.
Yes. And through
8
you,
of 23 are corporately held.
okay, so if we were to pass a motion today to say we as committee and perhaps council want to extend that authorization for those spots, but want to say to you, if you will, we're going to freeze it. So the people who are there today cannot all of a sudden rush in incorporating themselves so that they can sell and flip the business. What wording would we need?
So through you, Mr. Chair, they don't sell the permits. This is a matter of the directorship only from a technicality incorporation standpoint, but we are talking about whether or not council will permit these 23 locations to continue to be permitted to the current permit holders.
Yes.
And we can, if that is the concern, that any extension of that time is restricted to current permit holders as at today, we can help you with a wording on that.
Okay, then that's what I would like to move once we get to speakers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we're going through questions now. Speakers I'm going to, usually I don't do this, but I'm going to move the following motion. And briefly, I'll speak to it. Can we display the motion, please? That City Council amend Chapter 740, street vending to permit R55 curb lane vending, permit holders to continue to operate in designated curb lane locations until the extended deadline of December 31st, 2032. It's members of the committee, members of the public, members of council. We hear, and loud and clear, especially from two deputants, from Peter and from James. Peter has been out in the streets for over 50 years, and James for over 54 years, making a living on this. I do understand personally because I seen this struggle in the late 90s. And yes, by then we had former and the late councillors, Jack Layton and Pam McConnell, who were very passionate in terms of helping the industry out. And also the problems that we had in the streets, where people were chaining themselves to posts and whatever else, where there was a lot of friction between street vendors. I recall that. I also recall how you are struggling to survive, how you are struggling to make ends meet. And this is something that when you are out there and you have to move during peak hours from one street to another, and when we have our good friends from the Toronto Parking Enforcement following you and issuing tickets, that hurts. I don't like to pay tickets either, but that's part of what you have to endure every day. I do understand what you're saying. Please let me work. You are not asking for welfare. You are asking, let me work. And hopefully, as James said, until I don't have too much time ahead of me. And that's a very humanistic aspect of what you're asking. My friends, I don't have a problem with that. When people are honest, when people want to work, they are productive members of society, that's something that I will commend and congratulate those of you who are doing that. And on that, so those are my comments, and I urge members of the committee, please, to support that. Look at the humanistic aspect of it. Thank you.
Chair, just a question. I think that we might even get the help of staff.
As a question to the mover.
Yeah, yes.
I spoke just for 1.5 minutes.
That's okay. You also had 1.5 minutes. Chair, I mean, just to make sure that some of the concerns that were raised about incorporating and everything else, would you be willing to, as a friendly amendment that says curb lane vending permit present only holders?
I think that's a very friendly amendment to it, and I'll be more than glad to entertain that as well. Yeah. Yeah.
No, so I think what the chair is, through the chair to, I think with the clarification is that if the present holder passes away, that's going to be it. Is that the understanding?
Yeah, so that's, so the license will not be transferable to anyone, so that's, it comes to an end and it goes back to the city. Yes, I'll be more than glad to entertain that friendly amendment.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Any other speakers? Is Deputy Mayor De Vermaker, followed by the Vice Chair. Please go ahead, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank you for moving that motion to 2032, and I'll also be supporting, I guess, your and Councillor Karagiannis's friendly amendment to make sure that the people who will benefit by this are the people who have worked for 50 years, that people don't, if you will, flip the location and sell it off. I really appreciate that there are people who came to this country as new Canadians. They've paid their dues, they've worked hard, they get up early in the morning, they've got to prep, they've got to drive, they've got to deliver, they've got to go home, and they're making their living off of selling, again, I don't know the current price of ice cream, $1.50 or $2 a cone or a popsicle. This is a very hard job. It's family-oriented. When I first worked here as a staff member, when the megacity was first created, I know the late Councillor McConnell and the late Councillor Jack Layton both supported the small vendors being allowed to keep their spots. I do think they're somewhat of a tourist attraction in and of themselves. And they are our unofficial ambassadors, because when all the tourists come to all the different locations, they ask the vending people, where's the Toronto sign? And they'll say, there it is, right up there. Where do I go to watch the Blue Jays? Where is the subway? And they'll say, well, right there, you see the stairs that go down? That's where the subway is. So they help people every single day. They make their living in an honest way, and for a family who's been in the business, and I think I wrote down the number of years. Two of the gentlemen said, one gentleman said 54 years, another gentleman said over 50 years. I'm comfortable saying to those families, we will allow you to continue your business and work hard, have an honest living, and pay your taxes and be a good person. And then, you know, if you pass or you want to retire or you want to move to British Columbia to be with your family, the city gets that permit back. You can't flip that permit or sell it to somebody else. And I would say same with the corporations that are there. The corporations that are there today shouldn't be able to buy and sell the permit from the City of Toronto. So I'm very pleased to say that the individuals who were there for a long time, who've been supported by many different councillors over the years, should continue to be there. And I do appreciate the fact, because I don't think it's a conflict of interest that I've bought ice cream in my life, but I have, and hot dogs, veggie dogs. So I have seen that institution, that part of Toronto. I think it's a very healthy part of Toronto, and I really appreciate the dedication of these families to come here decade after decade after decade to make sure that they're running a small business, but they're also serving the people of Toronto. So I'm very happy to support your motion, Mr. Chair, and Councillor Karygiannis's friendly amendment, I think, once staff figure out the wording. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vice Chair Karygiannis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a motion. If staff can put it up, please. Thank you. Chair, we heard from some of the deputants that they're having difficulties in the neighborhood streets. And what I'm asking here is that the executive director, staff work with the stakeholders in order to mitigate and come back to us and find solutions to the problems that they face and come back to us in the second quarter of 2019.
Great. Any other speakers? If not,
since that's a question to me, since the question is to me, as soon as we finish here, they'll be out in the street again.
okay. So we have some motions before us. Is the first motion, you have my motion there as amended, is if we can just, asking the clerk if we can just, is that with the amendment?
Mr. Chair, I think they're still working on just a very slight.
Should we take 5 minutes, Mr. Chair, until staff are able to figure this out?
Do you need 5 minutes?
Let's give it 5 minutes.
So we're going to take a very brief recess. And hopefully that will stay in the room. It's 3 minutes.
Let's take that.
5 minutes. I think
we
staff are
can
there.
we can move with your item,
Sure.
Deputy Mayor. Do you have any questions? Councilor Musiala, maybe you held the item before being introduced.
Is the staff?
We can deal with this item in the meantime.
Is the staff here? The only reason I held it down, not that I don't support the intent, but the recommendation is to fund it for $20,000. So my question is that money in the existing budget to fund?
Through the chair, in fact, there seems to be some confusion around this motion. We were proposing a lesser amount because we were not proposing to fund this through our regular partnership grant program, but through our community program, which tends to spend about $5,000 on a graffiti vandalism solution of this sort. So the confusion seems to be that we're not looking at a wholesale repainting of that wall, but sufficient to deal with the graffiti vandalism situation. And we've dealt with others of these in the past.
So through you, Mr. Chair, just on behalf of the interim deputy city manager.
That's the reason I just had a question on it.
I'm been informed that we've identified approximately $5,000 that can be put against the amount of effort that's being sought here.
And so that's enough? Would the 5,000 be enough?
Through you, Mr. Chair, based on the initial scope as the directors from transportation has identified, for that initial scope, 5,000. I don't believe the ask initially was in intention of the entire wall. That would be something further for further discussion.
Okay, well, I guess the council would have, the local council would have to comment on that, because I'm very confused on this one too then. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, please go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. And again, thank staff for helping me and with the emails back and forth, because I emailed back this morning, and my comment was I didn't think $5,000 was enough to paint the entire wall of the school. Is that correct, that with $5,000 you couldn't paint the wall of the school?
That's correct, but we weren't looking at, through the chair, we were not looking at painting the entire wall. We were looking at a solution that would deal with the significant graffiti vandalism that's there.
So with $5,000, I'm not sure if you've seen the picture of the school.
Mm-hmm.
So would we be able to paint, I'll call it 5 or 6 feet high and across the wall where the graffiti was painted?
Absolutely.
And you, that's not much of a mural, though.
Councillor, we've successfully achieved some really terrific murals with that amount of money, working with communities and schools and assigning an artist, and we're happy to work with your office on this.
Okay, so if we were to find, if I amend it to $5,000, which was your recommendation, I'll call it for this a smaller version or a more modest version, and that if we found that it wasn't quite large enough, talking to the school and everyone else, in theory, we could bump it up later, but you're comfortable if we had if you had an envelope of $5,000, you could probably produce something that the school and the community would be happy with and would replace that racist graffiti with a message of love and inclusion.
Yes, I'm in agreement with your statement.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Chair, with that, I'll just amend my motion, if the clerks have it, to $5,000. And again, my intent was I would like to see the whole wall created with something beautiful, but if staff are saying this is probably going to be good enough, then I'm happy to take that first step and see what happens.
So great. With that clarification, so if the recommendation, Deputy Mayor, is being amended from 20 to 5, and then Councilor Nunciara, that's with that clarification, are you okay with that?
The only reason I held it down, not that I don't support what the local council wants to do. I was just asking a question about the money. That's all. So whatever amendment that the local council wants to make, I'm in full support of it.
So with that clarification, now I would like to move that this item be added to the agenda. And no, we didn't, because it was held. All those in favor to add it? Great. So we have the recommendations now. Would you like to move the recommendations and deal with this item now?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just move it with the amendment to $5,000. My intent was to have a mural that was, if you will, on the wall of the school. The staff proposal is somewhat more modest than mine, but I think as a first step, we'll get it approved, we'll meet with the school, and if everybody's happy, great. If they say, no, we just don't want these vandals, the school has been, vandalized on 3 different occasions with hateful graffiti. So if they say, no, it's got to be higher and it needs a bit more money, I think we'll work it out with staff. So I'm happy at this point to move that motion at $5,000. Okay, good.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, and plus paint, I believe, would be a more fulsome response. 5,000 plus paint.
Plus paint.
And plus volunteers. So it's you are getting there.
From everyone else.
It's fantastic. So we have recommendation there before us.
Accusations.
So all those in favor? Against? Carry. So we have deal with this item as well. So now we are going back to the recommendations before us as it relates to item number 2. If I'm going to ask the clerk if the recommendations are ready, if we can have them display on the screen. The first recommendation is number 1, move by the chair. and including the friendly amendment from Councilor Carjanes. That includes the friendly amendment with the current. So all those in favor? Against? Carried. The next motion is from Deputy Chair Carjanes. Before you, all those in favor? Against? Carry. On the item as amended, all those in favor? Against? Carry. Thank you. So we have dealt with item 2. Now we are going to move to item number 3. Just hold on for 1 second, please.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Staff had given me a motion in the back and forth, and I forgot to move it. So I guess we have to reopen the item.
Is to remove the, okay, to reopen the item, all in favor?
And Mr. Chair, this is a motion from our legal staff just to ensure that the rights that we're giving to people stay with the existing people, that they can't be transferred to other parties.
Fantastic, great.
They cannot. Yeah.
Okay. So all those in favor? Against? Carry. On the motion as amended, all those in favor? Against? Carry. Thanks so much. We have deal with item number 2, and now we are moving to item number 3. And members of the public, as I indicated at the beginning, on item number 3, we have 8 speakers, and also we have from item number 4 another 8 speakers, but there are some duplications there, so you are welcome to speak. I'll call on the first one, Sahid Mughal, first speaker. We are on the work plan for the review of Chapter 546, Vehicles for Hire. The first speaker, Sahid Mughal from the iTaxi Workers Association. And you were also registered to speak on item number 6, and that's with item number 4. Great. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Please go ahead. 3 minutes.
After 2 years break, looks nice to come back and talk about the tax industry again. My deputation will be very short and sweet. Mr. Chair, Taxi Workers Association fully supports Councillor Janet Davis' motion and requests this committee to support and adopt this recommendation. It's been 2 years when City Council passed Vehicle for Hire bylaws. As it's mentioned in the staff report that on May 3rd, 4th, 5th, 2016, City Council adopted a series of recommendations. As of today, all are outstanding. After 2 years, Executive Director is asking another 2 years. I wish if she had the apathy to feel what TTL drivers are going through, but why would she? Her name is in the sunshine list. She damn cares if TTL drivers are going through hell every single day. Mr. Chair, the committee members, please.
Point of order, Deputy Mayor.
Chair, I don't think it behooves us to take on anybody in particular. I know Mr. Sajid Mughal might have was not intentional, but I would ask him please to not to take any staff on personally. If the staff are here to support us and they're not here to be budgeted. So I ask of you, sir, to ask Mr. Mughal to retract those comments and for him to be a little bit more careful.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and that's one of the things that I'm going to ask to all the members of the public, that is my job as a chair is to make sure that we oversee a balanced, a thoughtful and respectful discussion throughout the meeting. And also my responsibility is to maintain decorum and civility, and so within this room, and respect for each other. Any comments against city staff or members of council will not be acceptable at all, and I will ask those members to leave the room. So please go ahead and refrain from those comments.
You know what, Mr. Chair, my heartfelt apology to the executive director, but I came to this point, there's some reason. It's been 2 years. The city adopted a motion that she is supposed to bring back a report about this particular motion third quarter of the year 2016. 2 years are gone by. TTL drivers are suffering every single day. We tried to knock her door and try to have a meeting with her. She refused. Again, my apology. I didn't mean to be personalized, but I had to make my point, which I think I did, and I will retract these words from my deputation.
Thank you. Questions to the deputy?
Oh, I didn't finish yet, sir.
Oh, please go ahead. You have 1 more minute.
Okay. Mr. Chair and committee members, please put yourself in their shoe and see how it feels after working 12 hours shift and barely making it take home enough. They are in a desperate situation. Please do not push them to the point where they may abandon their TTL licenses and start working for Uber. They will make more money and without any headache. I will take this opportunity to acknowledge a submission. I hope somebody by the name Jerry Manley has submitted his submission. It's a mind-boggling. It's a very informative report. Please, all committee members and staff should read that report. I will conclude myself with the request, please adopt Councilor Janet Davis' recommendation and start consultation process now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to the deputant, visiting members of council? If not, members of the committee. Thank you for your presentation. Cheryl Locus. Cheryl Locus.
Face up. Mr. Chairman and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm only here to give you a personal story, a personal reflection on ride-sharing in Toronto. I'm here also to plead with you for immediate action, or at least priority, as you begin this consultation on measures governing the safety of ride-sharing services. In the early hours of March 21st this year, my son, Nicholas Cameron, called an Uber to take himself and his girlfriend to Pearson Airport. They were going to Mexico and then a wedding in Florida. The driver left Nick's place in Parkdale at 3:13 a.m. and drove east. They're going to Pearson Airport. He was at Spadina Avenue when it was impressed upon him that this was not the way to the airport and that he should go west. Some conversation ensued. Middle of the night, downtown Toronto, luggage in the trunk and a plane to catch. An Uber-generated map of the route taken that night shows the car then headed west along the Gardiner. And on the highway, I've been told, the driver's cell phone fell to the floor of the car and he stopped the car, a Hyundai, on the paved shoulder of the expressway. He retrieved the phone and then sharply pulled back into traffic, directly into the path of a BMW traveling at full speed. My son died in the collision. His body took the full impact of the crash. His neck was fractured, his brain and spinal cord massively damaged. The Uber driver has been charged with criminal negligence and dangerous driving causing death and personal injury. The fate of the driver, who was 23 years old and
a resident of Ottawa will be decided by the courts, and our family's been told it will be a long process. In the weeks since Nick's death, I've had a front seat to how Uber deals with a worst-case scenario like ours. And I've listened to countless stories, I have a few of my own, and read a lot, but not nearly enough about Uber and this process. I'm frankly overwhelmed and disheartened. There's a kind of madness to all of this when we ask ordinary people without training to jump in their car and pretend they're taxi cab drivers. After Nick's death, Uber cut off the driver's access to its app, which hardly matters when your car has been totaled and you're facing criminal charges. They disabled Nick's Uber account, which prevented his brother from looking at his history. Hours after the accident, they sent him a receipt asking him to rate his driver and giving him an opportunity to add a tip. And more than 10 days later, credit for his visa arrived with the item marked promotion. Everything else has been assigned to Uber's blanket insurance policy for its drivers that swings into effect as soon as they sign on to the app. It takes all comers. That policy is dictated by Ontario's no-fault insurance law. Uber abides by the laws of the land once the laws are made. But those laws are set by politicians like you, and that is where the true power lies. I am begging you to use it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's with the permission of the committee, if we can just be a little bit more flexible. Please go ahead. Finish your comments, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was only 3 minutes.
I am happy to step down. I want to know what the true story, all right, I'm just sort of thrown. There was a recent investigation by CNN that talked a lot and cast a lot of light on Uber's style of lobbying, particularly with regard to background checks on his drivers. One lawyer called Uber's approach lobbying on steroids and described how lawmakers were pushed to use exact wording that Uber wrote when drafting legislation. The whole thing, which was confined to the United States in this case, made me feel like tactics attributed to the NRA when legislation affecting that organization is under consideration. I want to know why driver safety training, once mandatory for the taxi industry, was eliminated for taxi and ride-sharing drivers alike, and who thought that was a good idea. Don't we need more safety training and not less? I've been driving in this city for 50 years, and it's getting harder and harder to avoid an accident.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you. Questions to the Deputy Councillor Davis. Please go ahead, 3 minutes.
Thank you, first of all, very much for coming today and for sharing your personal story. I know how difficult this must be. I wondered if you could expand a bit on Uber and the way they treated you when they learned about the loss of your son.
I wasn't waiting for Uber to contact me at the time. I think that in every case that I've read about, there was a shooting, anytime there's Uber's asked to comment publicly, and it was at one point on the bail hearing for this driver. Its heart went out to me. It's cooperating with the police. It's cut off the driver's access to the app, and we'll be following the situation closely. Okay. And that's it. Okay. And that's the best you can expect. I don't expect a lot from Uber, but I do expect a lot from the people who are drafting laws that affect its operations.
And that's a good transition to my second question, which has to do with the training provisions. As you know, when the city approved the current PV personal vehicle for PTC. Yes, you've read the bylaw. When we approved that new bylaw, we eliminated all of the requirements for training for both taxis, and we did not introduce it for Uber or Lyft. Do you think that we should be reintroducing real training for everyone who has a vehicle for hire license in the City of Toronto?
Absolutely. I remember I was in an Uber one night on Lakeshore Boulevard, and I heard myself saying, "Sir, we're not your family. You should not be driving people around for money." There's some very good Uber drivers, and they're the best, but there's also people who are new drivers, nervous drivers, angry drivers, who think their cars are a good place to meet girls. There's all manner. I can't tell you how many people have said to me in this short journey, because it's only been a couple of months, about the sexual assaults involving ride-sharing companies. It's just like, oh yeah, that happens all the time.
And do you think we ought to be revealing more, in a more public way, the records of the vehicle for hire or Uber drivers, so that the City of Toronto gets a good picture of what's happening on our streets?
Well, there was some comment about this earlier, and I totally concur that we really should, the public should know, and everyone should know, how many collisions, fatalities, injuries are related to a ride-sharing vehicle.
And finally,
That was the last question.
when we
Councillor.
introduced, sorry, if you just allow me, when we introduced the new regulations, we were going to level the playing field. Instead of leveling up, what we did was we leveled down, and we eliminated so many of the requirements that built safety into our system. Do you think we should be reviewing all of those things as well?
I do agree, although you've laid it out, but I think that this committee's mandate is to preserve public safety, and that should be top of mind. And I just wanted to put my son's smiling face on the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Fletcher, 3 minutes.
Not finished yet.
Cheryl?
Cheryl?
No, you have more questions, please.
Beg your pardon.
Thank you again for coming. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? I think you thought you were getting a 5-minute deputation. Did you have anything else written down that you wished to say to us today?
No, I think I've made my point. I don't think I'm an expert on the way this whole thing unfolded. I'm very concerned about the abundance of cars that have been coaxed onto the streets, the precarious employment that's offered to rideshare drivers, the effect it's had on taxi drivers who thought they were making a career out of this. I found myself going, I would just say one last thing, I just found myself going downtown in a cab the other night, and when I got in the cab, I said, "Do you do this every day?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I get up in the morning, I come to work, I go home. I get up the next morning, I do the same thing, 8 years." This man was from Nigeria. And I found myself with my eyes closed, driving downtown, just feeling safe. There was a camera in the car, and the GPS was bolted to the vehicle. He said, "I put my phone away, I don't look at it."
So after the length of time that we approved the unregulating or an unregulated rideshare, do you think that we should at this point have a little bit more information about what you've said, the collisions, fatalities, accidents, sexual assaults, complaints, and how it's been dealt with? That surely that should be something that we should hear about and not have to wait another 2 years to hear about.
It goes without saying that information is power. It goes without saying that if we know what the impact is, if we're keeping statistics, if we're able to identify that this is a ride-sharing situation, it's that much better. And yes, I think if you're taking money for driving people around the city, you should be trained. You should be, why is Uber spending millions of dollars on artificial intelligence and agreements on urban mobility with the École Polytechnique in France, when it could set up a driving academy? It could set up its own Uber school and be for everybody, and make driving in urban areas truly safe. I have a friend in New Delhi who says it's nuts there. It's everything that their brand managers say it isn't. It's not okay. What's happening on the streets? We've got people piling onto each other. We've got drivers throwing lesbians out of the car because they're kissing. It's craziness. It's public space, but it's like bobblehead dolls pretending to be taxi drivers. You can't do it. And the next thing will be our transit system, and maybe an airplane. And what the hell?
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
How's that?
Any other questions? Councilor Janis, please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you to the deputy for coming down. Appreciate the fact, and please accept our sincere condolences for your son. But this is something that I have said all along, that I wouldn't let my family go in an Uber car. Now, you said, however, that you were in an Uber car yourself. When was that? Before your son's death or after your son's death?
Before.
Huh. Okay.
You know, my first experience was really harrowing, and I think it was almost two years before I ever set foot in another one. And then I started to use them. And they are a mixed experience. They shouldn't be a mixed experience. It shouldn't be rolling the dice.
I shouldn't say this, but having had a bad experience yourself, why didn't you tell your son not to take an Uber?
Have you tried to tell a 28-year-old son?
No, I'm not trying to tell you, but I mean, look, I'm a father, and I've said this publicly, that I would not get into an Uber car, not allow any of my family to do that.
I'm married into a family of stubborn men. One was a bike courier for 2 years and didn't wear a helmet.
My condolences.
You can't forbid a 28-year-old man with his own apartment and his own life, 2 jobs and a career.
My condolences. My heart goes out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you for your invitation. The next deputant is Iraj Isadozdar. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes. And the clock, you have a clock on that side as well and also in the back. Please go ahead. 3 minutes.
When a starting point, by the time, some kind of the question is in my mind. First of all, for issuing 100 license plate for the taxis, they spend $1 million and bring the team of researching for this city and end up, that result is comes just, this city needs just 100 more license plate. And now we are seeing it's 50,000 cars is just driving around each other, and I don't get this part. For being a citizen of this city or doing a business in this area, and how we can manage all these things. We see many stuff is coming up as a traffic-wise, like very simple things, standing behind the one car, you see the signal is left, signal is right. Signal is left, signal is right. In the intersection, which way is gonna go? Doesn't know, because they lost the GPS. It's the Uber drivers. These are all the small things or big things that comes together and makes the living in this city harder and harder. Especially for me as a TTL driver, that we have to have a business. And for a public service, we see kind of when the mayor says at least we have to have a fairness for everybody. We haven't seen any of point of that fairness. As a TTL driver spending $70,000 car instead of $5,000 car, paying a high cost of insurance, high cost of maintenance to just driving the one car without having the business for that. How many wheelchair accessible we can offer the service for them. In last 4 years, almost 4 years, many of us, even they didn't pick up more than 10. All I'm just trying to say in here, it's first of all, for the TTL, has to be category of the fairness with the other taxi cabs to bring in one level in industry, that at least through this industry, this TTL driver can compare with the other taxi drivers, can make a little bit easier, have a life. In last 4 years, when starting, for the first few months, we couldn't feel that much before Pan Am Games started, because as we have told about when the Pan Am comes, we need you. But we haven't get any calls from the related for the Pan Am Games. And issuing this TTL, it's so far, we see it's kind of wrong.
Thank you, sir. Questions to the deputant? Deputy Mayor Di Veramaker, please go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for coming in today. Sorry, when did you say you started driving?
1999.
And you now have a TTL?
Yes.
And so your vehicle's accessible?
That's right.
And many of the other vehicles in the industry are not accessible?
Yes.
So is it your opinion that 100% of the vehicle should be fully accessible?
No. The reason it's very obvious after 4 years working on it, difficulty for hiring the people to get in that car, getting out that car. It's many people, they can't. The old age people, they can't use it. And the car is big, fuel gas consumption is very high, and maintenance of the car is very high. Even the public doesn't like the big car.
Right. So then, I'll call it the fleet, and I can't remember my percentages now, but if 5% or so of the vehicles, 5 or 10% are accessible vehicles, the other, say, 90% are not accessible, but the 10% can do the job to have on-demand service. What are you saying to us then, that you just can't make money?
The 10%, it's right now we have almost 700 taxi cab as a wheelchair accessible taxi cab in here, but around 180 of them, they are busy in a TTC business. Yeah. The others, they are struggling to make the, yes, some of them, they are working with the big brokers, but what they carrying? Moving or many, as a 5% for using as a van? How many wheelchair accessible car get those cars in a big brokers?
Okay. So then what could we do to help you?
I think the best option, you have to give the TTL people have an option to pick sedan car or regular car or accessible car. Accessible car, when we have it, we have to have the enough business for them. When there is no enough business, sending all these cars on the streets.
But do you believe if we were to do that, all of the people with accessible vehicles would just switch them to normal vehicles? All of them?
There is a reason for that. Why?
Because they make more money. But
because they want to live too. But on the other hand, it's just about the money. It's about giving the service too. What I'm saying, I'm not saying that we don't need accessible cars, but what I'm saying is a dual-purpose car is wrong. Because picking up the one wheelchair accessible in a week, we're losing 5 customers a day. How we can bring the fairness for this system?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I did ask Councillor Davis, but please go ahead.
I think, let me see if I understand it. What you're suggesting is to create an option to drive either a regular taxi or an accessible taxi. And that when a TTL or an accessible vehicle reaches its maximum age, when you can no longer use it, that you be given the option of a regular taxi license. And in the meantime, the city develop incentives, or when the city develops in the future, additional incentives, that there may be more people willing to actually provide, purchase and operate accessible taxis. Have I got that right?
Yes, but what I'm saying is not after the 7 years, because there's many options. In many cases, it comes before that 7 years. If the one car is involved with the accident, another $70,000 we have to spend for that one, because after 1 year, the price of the car is dropped almost for 1/4. And it's not going to be insurance paid the same money, and then we have to go buy again.
Right. But you would agree that the city has to provide accessible taxi service on the
Yes,
street?
of course.
And there has to be a way to either force people to do it, meaning that's the only license we issue, the TTL,
Yeah.
or we provide a new way to encourage it through financial incentives or support.
I think is the second point is more reliable for that one.
Right,
It
and
has
in
to
order
be.
to do that, though, it will take some time, and that in between now and then, if the option was given to everyone, they would do it immediately, and that's a problem.
If it's taken sometimes is that one, how come we just change the 1 day or 1 week, Uber has to stay? Everything is changed in it's one meeting. How come that one is happening? But for this one is the livelihood of the
Took
people
longer
is
than
under
one.
the questions.
It was certainly longer than one meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Chanis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's review to the victims. You drive a minivan?
Yes. Yes.
Great.
A lot of the customers do not want to get in that so-called minivan because they feel that they're not disabled and they want to get in a regular car. And when you're stationed somewhere, people skip you and go to the next car. Would that be correct in that?
Exactly, yes.
It costs you more to have that minivan and also have this minivan accessible. I mean, the other additional material that you need to put in, like a gate or a lift or something like that.
Yes.
And the older you get, the harder it is to push up somebody in a wheelchair up in the.
It's not hard to push the wheelchair into the car.
Well, I've heard that as you age from people in your industry, that you cannot. I mean, it takes more power to move somebody up on the ramp.
Of course, need a physical body to move the 300 pounds or even 200 pounds.
So would you be, would yourself be agreeable that we should have some funding available for people that want to drive TTLs, that one, we compensate them for the additional money that costs to have that vehicle?
Absolutely, yes.
Would you be also agreeable that we should also allow you a little bit more leeway, not only because of the difficulties that you face in driving the vehicle, but also some of your customers not coming into your vehicle? There should be we should encourage you to drive the vehicle and provide your assistance along the years in order for driving the vehicle.
Absolutely, yes, it's going to be help. But meanwhile, need to create the business for that one too, because it's just one paying compensation for the car, it's not going to help for me, because everyday income is matter for us.
Right. I'm not only talking about compensation for the car, but I'm also some form of compensation while you're driving the car.
Yeah.
We've heard today all kinds of stories. We heard about Uber not paying fair. We heard about Uber not coming to the tribunals and everything else. And we've been trying to grasp on this as a council and especially staff, and only dealing with this aspect here today, not dealing with the whole industry. Do you think it's fair?
Of course not.
Exactly. So we need to come back, and we need to say to staff, this is your deadline. You got to do it. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
no more leeways, no more extensions in order for us to deal not only with TTL, not only with mirrors on the back of the cameras. I mean, I had a motion about the back of the door to have mirror, but to look at the industry all over again. Would I be correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Not okay. Thank you. We'll move on to Mertusa Gower, followed by Mohamed Reza Hosseinion.
Speaker, may I pass something?
No. It's please. You can speak from there, and then the clerk. That will be done through the clerk.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Gower, you have 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
All right.
The time is yours. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm going to have to speed up, but I'm going to be quick. I'm one of the TTL drivers, owner, operator. So after 3 years of review and consultation, MLS had created TTL one-tier system in 2014. Accessible plates were issued to the drivers on waiting list who waited for 13 to 15 years. We accepted the TTL plates because we were told by the city the whole industry would be accessible by 2024. That was the bylaw. We were also told that we could sell our vehicle or transfer after 2 years probation. In 2016, MLS and the council decided to abolish TTL program. Standard plates and ambassador plates were released from the TTL program, leaving accessible owners high and dry. When you abolish TTL program, then why not release all plate owners? It was a bait and switch program. We signed up for TTL program. We did not sign up to carry the rest of the taxi industry on our shoulders. The whole taxi industry should share the burden of accessible service. The dual-purpose accessible program has failed miserably. Accessible meter on demand is less than 2% of taxi business. There is hardly any accessible street pickups on the streets. People prefer regular sedan cars over accessible taxi. Accessible taxi refusal by customer is very high. Customers avoid taking accessible taxis on taxi stands and on the streets. City TV reported this issue on the news, and Mr. Jimmy Karagianis was part of that news. Accessible meter on demand taxi is a total failure and experiment gone wrong. I had explained our situation to the ombudsman, and she clearly understood everything. I humbly request that TTL plate should be converted to standard plates. Please do not make it a political issue, please. I've seen it all in the past 20 years. Please, don't make it a political issue. We are suffering financially. I do realize we need accessible service. Clean the slate and issue accessible plates to the drivers on waiting list. Tell them you will be accessible taxi forever in your life. At least it won't be a bait and switch program like it happened with us. For God's sake, we accepted 25,000 refugees to make their lives better. Please do not make TTL plate owners' life miserable, who are hardworking and your own honest citizens of this country. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Questions? Thank you for your presentation, sir.
Thank you.
The next deputant is Mohamed Reza. Mohamed Reza. Last call, Mohamed Reza Hossein Yonu.
This gentleman is I want to talk on behalf of Reza. He's not here today.
Is just 1 second. Is I'll be more than glad to accommodate you at the end of the list.
No problem, yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's sure.
Fantastic. The next deputant is Francis Washington. Good morning, sir. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, for allowing me to explain what is happening to us, especially the TTL. Thank you for allowing me to express myself concerning our taxi TTL industry. As you can see, most of us, we are not happy since you've been hearing us this morning. We were introduced in 2015, and since we purchased these vans, all these big cars, we thought we were going to be very good in the business, but we are totally disappointed. We are disappointed because what we were taught at the school or wherever we learned business, it did not produce us anything. We are very sorry, we feel very miserable, and we are not making any money. We came here to beg you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, to help us. Because right now, the business, the taxi industry has come down, and it is all with Uber. Specifically, with Uber, I repeat it, with Uber. And we are not making money, we are also being not be taken by, especially with old women and women. We are not hired. We are paying a lot of expenses on insurance policies. The next 2 years, many of us will be having new vehicles. Are we going to purchase this $80,000 vehicle vans when we are not still making money? Mr. Chairman, I would like you to sit down on your leisure time and investigate what we are going through. We have families just like you do, and many of us. I know it will be very helpful for you all to help us. We are not here to strike on the streets and, blocking traffic and all that. That is not the issue. Thank you very much.
Mr. Washington, there are some questions for you. Is visiting members not? And Vice Chair Karijanis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Sir, I'm going to ask the same questions that I asked the previous driver. We need to have a strategy for us to look after TTL and compensate them for driving TTLs, correct?
Correct.
We need to make sure that when we look at opening up the file, the taxi cab / Uber, we do it not partially, but do the whole thing and do a comprehensive review, correct?
Correct, but when?
The when is a great question. The when should have been done a year ago. Unfortunately, staff was not able to do it. Staff needs the time in order to do it. Staff needs to speak to stakeholders. It's not up to me, the when. The when right now is probably, as we face it, in the beginning of 2019. Because we can't do it as some people want immediately. So council after that disbands and we come back in 2019. So that's what you're faced with. And I know that you won't like it, but this is where we are. So it's 2019, something that's acceptable to you. You'll say no, correct? Okay, thank you, sir. Hold on.
Thank you.
Got more questions?
Deputy Mayor, the Baramaker, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, and thank you very much for coming in today. Sorry, what year did you start driving?
I got my license in 1989 when I was still in high school.
1989, yeah. And when did you get your TTL?
TTL, I got it 2015. I stayed for 15 years.
Sorry, I
stayed 15 years. Actually, I applied for ambassador.
Okay.
So the ambassador was a merge to TTL.
Right.
So basically, if you look at it on flashback,
yes,
it shouldn't have been TTL. It should have been ambassador, all of us.
So I just want to confirm so I understand. In 1989, you got your
yes, on 40 Holy Street, I got my license.
License as a taxi driver.
As a taxi driver,
Not
yes.
as a plate owner, not as an ambassador, but as a driver.
No, not at all, sir.
So then you were a driver, and then in 2015,
I got the TTL.
You got TTL. And this is now, we'll call it 2018. In 2018, though, the rules between 2015 and 2018 haven't changed, to my knowledge. Right? When you signed up in 2015, you signed up as an adult, as an intelligent person. You knew what the rules were. Nobody forced you to sign up. You volunteered to sign up. You asked to sign up. You signed up. We're here, say, 3 years later. What rules have changed in the last 3 years?
Nothing.
Okay, so your submission to us is that it's not like someone else said he had a license a long time ago, there was bait and switch. What you're saying is the rules are the same. It's just that you have a difficult time making a decent living.
Correct.
And at one level, would you like to be like the ambassador drivers to go to a standard vehicle?
Well, what we were obligated to do, or what the standards told us to do, they didn't put us right on the accurate job that we're supposed to be doing. But rather, we purchased big vans. We thought we were going to make money on it. But that is not what we are going through right now. If you look at our faces right here, you can see it. Nobody tells you.
Right. So when you bought I'll call it the big van, as you call it, when you bought the big van, you thought you were going to make money. The reason you're not making money is because?
It's because people don't like those vans.
Okay.
Especially with women.
So, right.
Women don't like vans. Reporting. I did not call for van. I did not call for this. Each and every blessed day.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questioners? All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next person would be Mohammed Hashim. I believe that would be the next one, right here. Mohammed Hashim, yep. Mohammed Hashim.
Yes.
Please, sir, coming up. You got 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Mohammed Hassan. I'm driving 4051 TTL. The reason I am here, there was an accessible taxi before TTL, isn't it? And after that, the city gave me a 1-by-1 3-letter offering for accessible taxi, and I was denied. No, we don't like accessible. Then Mrs. Tracy Cook offering us the all same one-tier system. If you like, you can come. Then we agree with her. After 1 year, she canceled this project, failure project, and she blocked us like 290 accessible taxis block to stay here, but we are not willing to stay. And I'm asking, what is the human right for us? Isn't it wrong? As a human, you have an accessible taxi before us. You still have. And you blocked 290 driver for a prison. We cannot get out, get in. And we expend $70,000. And we make nothing. We go on the road and come empty hand in home without money. And my kids are in York University study. We expend 3 kids in university. And I'm empty, every day coming, we fighting with my wife. She gives some money from her pocket, pay the insurance bill and maintenance fee. So why you block us without permission? Where is the human right for Canada? I want to see. Because there was an accessible taxi before us. Couple hundred taxi was before. And Mrs. Tracy Cook forced asking to one tier system, 7,000 member was in the CNN, isn't it? And she promised us that all are the same tier, then we agree. Otherwise, I'm not agree with them. And please, give me my permission to, or you take it, but I cannot afford. I have 3 kids in university, and I expend all the money. I have nothing in left in my pocket. Please, as a human, and I want to see where is the best human in Canada. This is my expression. Please consider my application to maintain my family at least. My one son in the York University, 2 is at Toronto University, and every day expend. And they're asking to go to the restaurant to eat. I say, I don't have money to take you in the restaurant. And they're always fighting. So please, I want to see the human right. Where is the human right?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions to the deputant? If not, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, sir.
No question asked?
The next deputant is Mohammed Haider. Morning, sir. Good to have you here. Please go ahead.
Thanks
3 minutes.
This opportunity to talk about a group of TTL plate owners. Actually, this group of TTL plate owners consists of 100 or maybe 88 plate owners. Those buy plate from the ambassador or a standard plates in the 2014 and 2015. I am one of the victims of this group. When we were in the process of buying standard and ambassador plate, the city office informed us about all the new changes in the law. On the other hand, they also direct us the taxi stakeholder appeal a case in the court, and maybe the decision of the court affect the new plate owners. At that time, as a new plate buyer, we decide 2 things. Number 1, follow the city process to buy a plate. And on the other hand, work with the stakeholder to win the case. After a long struggle, almost 14 months, I think, city reversed the law and they announced no need to put an ambassador or standard plate as a TTL plate. The case was withdrawn from the court because city reversed the law. But the 100 drivers or maybe 88 drivers are not allowed to go back to as a standard or ambassador plate. I have no hesitation to say that this is unfair and injustice with 100 drivers. I would like to give an example. In the city chapter issued on 9th June 2016 is clearly mentioned in chapter 546, section 37, subsection A. They mention any owner may convert his or her license to a TTL owner's license by application to MLS. So my question is, when the case was in the court and city reversed the law, so why not they ask us, so what you want? Why they didn't take our feedback? Please think on a justice-wise, think on fairly about us. I request to the authorities, also deal our case on the humanity basis too. When we bought these taxi plates, we spend almost $200,000. We borrow the money from the banks, from the family friends. It is my 4th year as a TTL plate owner, and there are a lot of burden on my shoulders, how I can feed my family. My wife, she is a PhD student in a York University. She is busy. I have to stay with the kids. How I can pay my loan? Please, think on the humanity basis too, at least. And last thing I like to say, sir, just a few seconds.
Thank you, sir.
Just 5 seconds.
Just 3 minutes. Thanks so much.
Okay.
And any questions from the deputant? Yes, and Councillor Davis, please go ahead.
What was the last thing you'd like to say?
It took 4 years to put my case on the proper platform. But please don't take another 4 years to decide this. Okay. Decide in a days. Don't take years or months, please. Okay. That's I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Any other questions?
Thanks.
Great. The next deputant is Beroz Kamesh, followed by Joe Ironi. Morning.
Good morning.
Here, please go ahead.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
How are you? You guys reduced the time. It used to be 5 minutes.
We have 3 minutes now.
Yeah? All right. Thank you. My name is Beroz, and I've been with the taxi industry for quite a number of years. And I remember back in the 2016, and prior to that, when we were all coming around here and discussing about this issue of the taxi versus Uber, we try to warn you a lot about the consequences that are going to be facing this city. But unfortunately, it seems like many of you guys at the time were not paying attention to what the taxi industry were telling you guys. It seems like that you guys had a big rush. I don't know what was the big rush. To level the taxi industry? I think you have done a fantastic job. You guys come on the street and you see what's happened to the taxi industry. It collapsed. The business, the value, everything has collapsed. Even the morale has collapsed. And these are all because of what? Of you guys not paying attention. You guys didn't do your job properly. You guys pretend to be public representation here. You guys are trying to present public here. And look what you have done. What are you guys going to say to the public? I mean, my heart went to the lady when she was over here when she lost her son. For what? You guys destroyed everything. The very basic thing, the training of somebody that is supposed to come and do a job. How could you think? How could anybody think that we can take away the training and everybody's going to be okay with that? And look what happened. You put somebody behind the wheel, take the family, a person, and look what happened. Okay, you guys are public, you guys are representing public, and the election is coming up soon. Yeah. All right? Public is got to be informed about what you have done here. Public doesn't know that there are over 60 or 70,000 cars running around the street. They complain about the congestion. Yes, you know what? Those cars, those pooper cars on the street, they don't carry the Lego. If they do carry, they become very obvious in the city. And you guys are not enforcing the law. Why not?
Thank you, sir. You have questions. Councillor Davis, please go ahead.
So you support reintroducing training for all taxi cab drivers and Uber drivers?
Ma'am, are you in the position? I do support, but are you in the position? Are you presenting the public here?
Pardon?
Are you a representative of the public?
Excuse me, I'm a city council and I have a right to ask your question. You came before us and I'm asking you a question.
Yes,
My
go ahead.
question is, do you, first of all, are you a driver, an owner,
I'm everything. Owner, driver, brokerage owner, everything.
brokerage owner?
Developer, you name it, I'm all.
Right, okay, so you play all those roles. Do you fully support restoring the training provisions for everyone in the industry?
I do.
Yes? Did I hear that? Yes.
I do.
Okay.
But I have a question for you, ma'am.
No, it's me asking you the
Excuse
question.
me, sir.
Really?
You don't ask questions. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Obviously,
the next
there is no
deputant
question.
is Joy Ironi. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Morning, everyone. Forgive me, I'm still coming to terms with the fact that I need glasses, so this is a little awkward. Yes, my name is Joe Ironi. I'm here representing the Ontario Limousine Owners Association. I'm also a director on the National Limousine Association in the United States, where we deal with a lot of matters with respect to ride-hailing services. And I say ride-hailing because everybody keeps calling companies like Uber and Lyft ride-sharing, but I've yet to understand what is actually being shared. So I want to thank you, first of all, for opening up talks on the review of Chapter 546. I think it's important for you to all understand the difference between our industry and that of taxi. We provide prearranged services. We don't provide on-demand services. We're not picking up strangers. We're dealing with corporate clients and private clients who order us on a prearranged basis. And although we have, for many years, gotten lumped into regulations that govern taxi and limo, there's a fundamental difference between our services and those of on-demand services like taxi and ride-hailing services. So I would ask that you all keep that in mind when you are framing any regulations, whether it is respect to accessible vehicles, training, or any other items in regards to our industry. Because oftentimes in the past, we have been subjected to rules and regulations that were imposed on us simply because they were done for the other industry, and it seemed unfair to do it for one and not for the other. However, there was really no actual justification for imposing those regulations on us, which also leads me to the request to have the stretch ratio included as part of the review. If you are not aware, we are required to carry stretch limousines in our fleets in order to have sedan licenses. This was part of a deal that we had to accept back in 2016 when the review was being done for the entire industry. And in fact, it was included in the staff report that the recommendation to remove that ratio be included. Now, unfortunately, perhaps we didn't lobby hard enough, or I don't know exactly how it happened, but it was determined to just leave our bylaw as is. Unfortunately, there is no longer a demand for stretch business, and we're forced to carry these vehicles that are expensive, that are not being built anymore on a wide scale, and there's just no justification for having those vehicles. The reason that it was put in at the beginning is because...
Please wrap up.
Yeah, the reason it was put in the beginning was as a measure of protection for the taxi industry when they were saying that if we just allow open entry, there's going to be a flood of cars on the road and they would be stealing our business. And we argued that that was not the case. It's been proven that it's not the case, and there's no justification for having that rule in place anymore.
Thank you, sir.
Especially since ride-hailing services like Uber and Lyft are allowed to compete with taxis on a wide scale.
Thank you. Questions to the deputant? Thank you, sir, for your presentation. The next deputant is Imran Chaudhry. Imran? Morning, sir.
Thank you very much.
Please go ahead. 3 minutes.
Thank you, everybody here. Oh, I don't want to waste my time because just I'm saying, in 2014, City Council approved in final report provided by MLS of taxi industry review that It resulted to create one-tier licensing system, owner-operated dual-purpose accessible taxi system, which is called TTL. All standard and ambassador plate owners were required to convert to TTL upon the selling or purchasing over time. In 2016, City Council reversed its taxi reform and approved a new vehicle for hire bylaw. It took restriction of standard and ambassador plate that don't have to convert to TTL anymore, allowed ambassador plates to be converted to as standard plate but not for TTL. TTL stayed locked and restricted under the new bylaw. Even we are being forced to drive very expensive accessible vehicle without offering any choice. The city did not treat us fairly in 2016 in vehicle for hire bylaw. We are not against the accessible taxi system, but this TTL current concept of on-demand meter rear entry conversion dual-purpose accessible taxi van system is failed project. Most people with disability, able people, don't like to use this van. This van is very expensive in terms of capital and operating cost. The only way it can work out is to just give us an option to whether we can drive accessible or non-accessible vehicle like how other driver plates own type owners do. It means one-tier licensing system. The city can offer subsidy to plate holder who want to drive accessible van to cost purchasing and operating accessible vehicle. So driver who wants to drive accessible van with subsidy, they can buy accessible vehicle, and those who don't want to accessible van or are not able to deal with this service, they can drive sedan. This should not be a force, but instead be offered by choice. The same system can be followed to the driver on the waiting list in the future. This way will be fair for both driver and people with disability, and the city can fulfill the accessible demand at the same time. We ask for a one-tier licensing system which is fair for everyone. There should be no current concept of TTL. The name can be anything, but the concept should remain one-tier licensing system. The most remarkable things now, according to current taxi plate demand, standard plate price is now even less than an accessible van cost, and gradually its price is dropping. So after the end of the age of the current TTL van, why should driver purchase the accessible van with a cost of $60,000 to $85,000?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Questions to the deputant. Councillor Davis.
Just so that we understand and it's clear what happened to the TTL. What happened to the TTL was in 2014. Before that, we introduced the TTL. It was going to be mandatory for everyone, and everyone was going to be a TTL. Isn't that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you, when your car reached 7 years and you were an ambassador, you thought everybody was going to be a TTL. And so you converted to a TTL when you bought your next vehicle. Is that what happened to most of these TTLs?
Yeah.
Right. And 2 years later, what happened? The city said, oh, no, we're not going in that direction anymore. We are going to reverse this. Is this not the case that what happened was we reversed?
Question.
Is it not the case, this is the question, is it not the case that the city reversed the direction and all other ambassadors got to become standard plates, except
TTL.
The ambassadors who had already converted to a TTL?
Yeah.
So the people who are...
What's the question, Councillor Davis? There is no question there. The preamble is...
So, is it true that the people who were most affected were the people who converted to TTL in that window between 2014 and 2016?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And what you want...
Any other questions?
Yeah.
The other thing that was approved was that we would look at the possibility of some kind of way of providing financial incentives, either pooling from amongst everyone, is what was suggested, and there was supposed to be a report back on how we might do that to support the TTLs, to provide encouragement and incentives. Isn't that what we also approved here at the city? And that report just hasn't come yet?
Hasn't come yet more than 1 year. So
But
it's
isn't
been
that
waiting,
what
yeah.
you know is going to be in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
recommendation
Yeah, yeah.
that we should do?
Yeah.
Great.
But, yeah, can I add one?
Thank
yeah.
you.
Well, can I add one thing with this? What
No,
is
it-
Thank you.
question.
It's okay.
You have
Thank
you
you.
have answered the question from the
answer.
councillor.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Chair,
Thank
with all due
you.
respect, I don't think the councillor can say my recommendation. She's not a member of this committee.
Well, nothing has been come forward today.
But I didn't answer
Okay.
yet.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh, it's
The next deputy.
Jim Karajan has a question.
Oh, you have another one? Okay, Councillor Janis.
Thank you. Sir, I think what I would hear from everybody here today is you want a motion on this committee to kill Uber, to
Of
discontinue.
course, I
Uber
agree.
to
I
operate.
agree
Thank you.
100%. The lady who
Let's
talked
not mince
about
with
it.
words.
Yeah.
Let's be specific.
Yeah.
Uber has killed the industry. They've destroyed what's coming in the traffic downtown Toronto. We're dancing around. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah, it's related the
Thank
Uber,
you.
yeah, kill, and also we cannot afford the TTL guy. We are not against the accessible, but one-tier system with subsidy. Who
All right.
wants to go there? This
Thank
is the
you very
main
much.
reason.
Appreciate
yeah.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it has to be, according to the supply and demand. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
The next 5 deputies, even before I get to you, is there was a motion at the very beginning that allowed members of the public who didn't register to put their names on until 10:30. None of the following that are going to be called were part of the 10:30 additional names. But with permission of the committee, I think that I would like to just to add those names. And with that, we are closing, the list has been closed. Kingsley Mensah.
I just got here by wheel transfer.
Kingsley Mensah, please go ahead, 3 minutes.
Good morning. Good morning, committee members and honorable councillors. My name is Kingsley Mensah Yaboa. I'm a professional full-time taxi driver for almost 29 years in the city of Toronto. It was established that on February 19, 2014, the City of Toronto Council voted overwhelmingly to implement one single operation services under a new system called TTL, meaning the Toronto Taxi Licensing, which became effective on July 1st, 2014. Supposedly, the whole fleet by June 2024. I was one of the few drivers on the waiting list whom the TTC licenses was issued. I was mandated to provide an accessible van vehicle with the cost of almost $70,000. Under the new bylaw 503/2014, Taxi on Demand program, which was endorsed and mandated by the City of Toronto Council, I and many of us invested such amount of money into the program. The city also, at the same time, the city also endorsed the PTS, which is Private Transportation Services. All the stakeholders of the Toronto industry stand up against the changes, and we end up in many strikes, but at the end, the city prevailed in court to go ahead with the Taxi on Demand program. I have invested such amount into the Taxi Demand program. I have learned that in the City of Toronto is no longer continuing with the program. the city betrayed and breached its February 1924 vote to structuring the taxi operation under one-tier system. My dear honorable councillors and committees, this is not a good program. This is a good program, but in fact, it is unworkable. Why? This two-tier system by the city must stop. TTL operation is highly impossible to sustain due to high cost of insurance premium, vehicle maintenance, gas consumption of these cars compared to regular taxi cabs.
Thank you, sir. Questions to the deputant? Thank you for your presentation. Deputy Mayor De Beramaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you're aware that back then there was a staff recommendation to have every single vehicle, every single cab to be 100% accessible. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Do you think that was a good recommendation?
It wasn't at the time. It wasn't at the time, and it wasn't this time either.
Right. So you would agree with me that 100% of the vehicles should not be accessible?
Actually, we stand up for that 100% vehicle was not sustainable. But in the end, the city went ahead with it, and it's the reason why I accepted the elections to become a TTL owner.
Because you thought everybody eventually
Because everybody was eventually.
And you would have, I'll call it, a level playing field. You have an more expensive, I'll call it an expensive vehicle, and everyone else would have an expensive vehicle.
Exactly.
And you'd all make your money, and everything would be equal on the street.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you, sir, for your presentation. We'll move to Javad Tabrizi. Javad Tabrizi.
Good morning.
Good to have you here.
Ladies and gentlemen,
morning, sir.
Madams, Monsieur.
Please go ahead. 3 minutes.
I am one of the TTL owner. After 15 years, 16 years waiting, in the list of ambassador, specifically ambassador, and paying thousands of dollars to waiting. It was 3 years, then put your name in the waiting list. Then after 15 years, they issued a plate, and I paid thousands of dollars for lease or shift or anything you call it. And by the name of every taxi, 100% taxi is going to be accessible. So if it's going to be 100%, fine. We got license. And finally, they changed their mind. City changed it. I don't know what was behind. So, and the thing is, this is absolutely, I believe, discrimination, because as you see the 100% TTC vehicles and all those things, they are accessible, because TTC is not their own. Driver doesn't own that vehicle, but my fellow colleagues, they own the vehicle. They have to pay from their own pocket. So when it comes to this, it's absolutely discrimination. And you have to put into consideration, they are suffering, I am suffering. I have this is one of my line of credits. This is one of the other one. You can see it's all debts. Everybody's on debts. And if you keep going like this, we're gonna broken. You know, in New York City, 4 people commit suicide. So this is, it should ring the bell. Any question?
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Thank you for your presentation. Thanks, sir.
No question.
The next speaker is Emily Dagon. Yeah, Emily Dagley. Good morning, Emily.
Hey.
Good to have you here.
So as usual, I'm the only person in a wheelchair in the room that's affected by this because TTL is accessible cabs. Now, I'm going to speak on 3 quick points because my deputation for item 4 was already sent to you via email. I'm sorry I'm late. I had to come by Wheel-Trans. Now, each and every person in this room chose to drive a cab. That's a choice. They did not choose the TTL. They were forced. I never for one thought that it should be 100% accessible. But also, you've got to realize, and I've told this to you guys for 4 years, and for the whole damn time we've been doing this, that people with disabilities are on ODSP, 85% of us. We can't afford the taxi rates in this city. From day one, I've told you, research Hamilton, research taxi script. Mr. Burnside, Mr. Kuriajanis, Mr. DeBearmaker, be nice if you listen. We need taxi script in this city. I have said from day one, this is the only thing that's going to allow us to be able to take taxis. Maybe you might want to learn from Hamilton. Everybody hates on Hamilton, but in one way, they're kicking your butt. They're making it affordable for people with disabilities to take cabs and be able to give these guys business. I've gotten to know many of these gentlemen in this room. How many other people in wheelchairs are in this room? How many other people with disabilities are in this room? Why should we be relegated to booking Wheel-Trans a week ahead? And it's getting worse because they're putting ambulatory on the cabs and forcing us to squeeze in small minivans. Rear-loading minivans are not the answer. I don't feel safe. None of my friends in wheelchairs feel safe. My friends and I, the disabled community, we have a saying. Friends don't let friends take Uber, because Uber sucks. I have friends in the US that have been victimized by Uber drivers. And I'll tell you this right now. The only thing that is going to save our taxi industry of accessible cabs in this city is for you to get off your butt, research Hamilton's taxi script that they've had for over 20 years. Now, it works. You have a piece of ID, you buy books of tickets, you pay 40% of the cab fare. You get help with cab fare. It gives you that option. When you have to go to the hospital, you don't have to call 911 and pay $150 and them not take your wheelchair if it's not an emergency. Or better yet, if you need a big load of groceries to get home with, you can call a cab. Or you have something from IKEA, IKEA want to charge you $100? No, I'll take a cab. Instead of having to book Wheel-Trans and get told, oh, well, you can't take anything more than 2 bags are on the back of your chair. So, let's give people with disabilities an option that we can give these guys business, and let's keep these guys from wanting to stop helping us.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Any questions to the deputant?
Hey, Jim.
Questions for you. Councilor
I have one question, and I'm just about to move a motion that says we continue to disallow Uber to work in the city of Toronto. Your views on that, and anything else that you wanted to say that we didn't allow you to finish?
I'll be nice and I'll stay within Robert's Rules of Order. Uber sucks. Friends don't let friends take Uber, especially when you have disabilities, especially when you have a guide dog. Did you know that some of them like to try and charge $25 extra if you have a guide dog? Isn't that nice? Just because you have a guide dog? My other point is this. Rear loading cabs are not the answer. We should have MV1, unfortunately, no longer makes cabs, but MV1 vehicles, as you can tell from any of the TTC guys that have MV1s, the wheelchair users, we love them. People with disabilities, we love them. I'm sorry if people don't like the look of a minivan. Guess what? That's life. Get over it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Emily.
I will miss you, Janet. You've been a huge advocate for us. Thank you.
The last two deputants, Javid Wali, followed by Johannes Mesjam. And with that, we close the list. Javid Wali?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for waiting. Good to have you here.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be at City Hall once again. Before I start my deputation about the TTL, there is a point to be noticed. The lovely lady who lost a son with a Uber accident, that Uber car was registered in Ottawa. The driver was registered in Ottawa. How come the city politician allowed those outsiders to come and pick up from Toronto? There are Uber drivers coming from Hamilton, Uber driver coming from Kitchener, and you saw Uber driver coming from Ottawa. Why, if it's a level playing field, why the taxi industry, the Toronto taxi, they cannot pick up from Mississauga, from Hamilton, from Ottawa, and from wherever? What level playing field are you guys talking about? Please stop fooling these people. There is no such thing as level playing field. As far as the TTL is concerned, I feel sympathy for these people. These people has been misled by the city councillors, by the politician there. Now there is 500 of them, but some politicians in City Hall, they were pushing for 100% wheelchair accessible. Imagine 5,000 people could have been there. In my deputation in 2004, I told you guys, if you remember, the TTL will not work. The TTL was introduced without a study, without nothing. It just came out of the blue. As far as Councillor Janet Davis is concerned, you know, she talked about the training. I'm strongly asking the council to put training and inspection back. The cab industry in Toronto is going bankrupt. The cancer is spread through the entire body. Now you guys, you want to give chemotherapy to a finger, you want to save a finger? If you want to save this industry, talk about the industry as a whole. Please don't pick and choose. Those times are gone. You want to talk about this industry? Let's open the review. Let's go through everything and solve this industry and be fair to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions to the deputant? Thank you, Mr. Wally.
Thank you.
Johannes, last deputant. Good to have you. Please go ahead, 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't need the 3 minutes. I want to tell you what happened at us. I'm owners and TTL drivers, and really, before I purchase my plate, I trust our community service like you guys, and I trust my city. I believe they can keep it what they said. Then after I purchase my plate, after 2 years, they will change it. I don't want to repeat it again, because you know all history. That's why after I purchased 2014, I spent around 100,000, and they stop. They're supposed to be do it all TTL, or like me, the people purchase around 200 or 180 people. They don't see nothing. Nobody asking us to give us chance to get a regular plate, our ambassador, or regular plate purchase, or everybody they just covered us and they give it us their option without our option. Really, upset. My line of credit and my credit card, really, I'm dead. I'm asking you guys, please, I need to return my plate, my plate. So if you needed your TTL plate, take it your TTL plate and give it to me, what I purchased, my ambassador's plate. I'm asking you guys to help me, to help us, and to do fairness and a good job for our drivers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Questions to staff? Councillor Davis.
You've seen my motions. Are you able to support those motions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, Councillor Davis.
Okay, thank you.
To the committee, Councillor Jan.
Chair, I'm willing to be a little bold, and I will ask staff to comment on this. I'm looking to put forward a motion that reads, the City Council direct the Executive Director of Municipal Licensing Standards discontinue or suspend the operations of Uber.
Councillor Jan, at this point we are...
No, I'm asking, just let me finish, please. Give me the opportunity to finish. I just want to make sure that it's in order.
Go ahead.
My question is, end or suspend the operations of Uber in Toronto until the report comes back from the Executive Director of Municipal Licensing Standards. Would that motion be in order, yes or no? Sure.
Okay.
The motion would not be in order. It's out of scope of this report, and it's also a bylaw amendment which would require public notice.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Speakers.
I'll speak.
Councillor Davis. Councillor Davis, 1 minute so is gone. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I have several motions, and they have to do with TTL, and they have to do with reporting related to the private transportation company licenses, PVCs. The first one asks for the study to expedite the accessibility strategy. If you could put it on the screen, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And to look at the provision of financial and other incentives to support the purchase and operation of TTL vehicles and increase the number of on-demand metered taxi cabs, providing the option to those currently holding TTL licenses to revert to a standard taxi cab license when vehicles reach their maximum age, and other measures to increase the availability and use of accessible on-demand. The second has to do with reporting as well on the training requirements and other public safety requirements for Uber and other companies, and for a new public reporting process on the safety record and performance of PTCs. I don't want to rehash the history of the policy discussions and the policy reversals of this council, other than to say, other than to focus on how they impacted the TTL taxi owners. The TTL taxi plate owners were the only plate owners who did not stand to benefit from the final decisions that council made, which was to allow ambassadors to convert to standard plates. Now, I was always in favor of moving towards an owner-operated system, a TTL system. And that was the policy of the City of Toronto in 2014 after we undertook a review of the taxi cab industry. And so for anyone who was on the top of the waiting list, we issued another 100 licenses, and for anyone whose vehicles had to be replaced, they were looking to the future and recognized the direction the city was going and they believed and trusted the city that everyone would become a TTL. And that did not happen. 2 years later, that policy changed. And so there are drivers here who have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in...
Councillor Davis, thank you. You have those two motions there.
Oh, could...
Is
I forgot that it was
other
3
speakers?
minutes, Mr. Chair.
Any other speakers? We're going to lose quorum, and we're trying to wrap up.
Can I just say, our staff support it. I hope you will support it.
Thank you,
We were
Councillor.
treated
We heard that.
unfairly, and I hope you'll support it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No. Any other speakers? A motion. Okay. We are with the speakers, and then we'll get to motions. A motion? Do you want to speak to it? Okay. Councillor Burnside, please go ahead. Is Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
There's so many. Okay, great, thank you.
That's true. There's too
Through
many.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll move the motion as a courtesy to Councillor Davis, and I'll support it. I think they're reasonable requests for our staff to look at all aspects, including those specific ones, when they come forward with the comprehensive review in 2019. Certainly, I hear what many people here today are saying. I think we have an obligation as a city council who is overseeing and operating the taxi industry. I've never once, for 1 second of time, for 1 millisecond of time, ever supported Uber. I don't support them now. They shouldn't be in the city. I've tried to be as vocal as I can to tell people Uber is unsafe. So when there's a tragedy where a young man is killed, it's horrific. My condolences to that family. And it does bother me that that young man made a conscious decision not to take a taxi. He didn't do it by accident. He wasn't just standing there and an Uber car bumped into him and somebody threw him into the Uber cab. He made a conscious decision to go with Uber, perhaps because it's cheaper. Who knows why? I will never know his individual reason. His own mother, who came here today, also said to us, I take Uber too. So there's a problem with Uber, and it still has to be fixed, and it's something that I just will never support. In terms of our review, again, I do believe that we as a committee and council have an obligation to make sure that all parts of the industry are fairly treated and are able to make a living. I disagree with some of the deputants who say, well, you know, you changed the rules, shame on you. I've got an accessible vehicle and the other people don't. Well, I remind people that there were over 1,000 ambassador drivers. Not one ambassador driver ever came to me and said, I want to make sure, I want the whole fleet to go 100% accessible. And when you look at the actual facts and the actual history, the ambassador drivers all went to standard plates. None of them, to my knowledge, very few of them, I will say, not none, there's probably a few, but 99, 95% of them all went to standard vehicles. So the reason when you're all here today saying, well, why did council do this to us? We did it because your friends asked us to. Your friends, the ambassador drivers, 1,000 of them, came to us and said, we don't want to go 100% accessible. And there are another 3,000 of your, I'll call it colleagues, in the bigger circle, over 3,000 plate owners, who also came to council and said, it's a mistake. If you go to 100% accessible vehicles, it's a mistake, don't do it. This is called democracy. Our staff put out recommendations, and we listened to the industry, and we changed those recommendations. There's nothing wrong with that. We actually did a good thing, And if I called your own friends who used to own Ambassador plates, they would agree with me. So now what you're saying to us is, well, now we're stuck with big, expensive vehicles. Well, at one level you are. We have to figure out a way to help you because you deserve to make a living like everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Chair, I know that my motion was ruled out of order, but I wouldn't mind if the staff can put it up. I think the only answer that we're looking for here today is that, unfortunately, it was ruled out of order, and I want to thank the staff for their advice. However, speaking forward, I got problems with Uber. We were told about the problems with Uber, and I'm looking for a speedy report from the executive director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other speakers? I'll get to your motion, Councilor Carichanis. Councilor Burnside.
What's your motion?
And is mine somewhere? In the meantime, we had a motion from Councilor Carichanis. I'm going to rule that out of order for the following reasons.
Chair, I realized it was ruled out of order, and I said it was ruled out of order.
Yes, as Chair, there is a procedure by law that I have to, even though the intent and the purpose of what you're moving forward, I do agree.
I did not present the motion.
He did present it, he just wanted to make a show.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to. Okay,
when it's out of order, you can't even present it. That's my experience.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Other speakers? Here we have Councilor Burnside, please.
Yes, I'll read it. Mr. Chair, through all this debate about Uber, I'm pretty loud though. Through all this debate, I do feel that the limousine industry has largely been ignored, and so I am moving this motion. The ratio, the stretch to sedan ratio, seems a bit, let me get it right, anachronistic, if I'm got the pronunciation right, and I think it's time to get with the 2018. Hopefully, we can get that report back.
That it? Great, thank you. Any other speakers? No, I do have a motion. Okay, I do have a motion as well that I'd like to put forward. Can we display it, please? That the Executive Director of Municipal License Standards include the following in her future reports on the review of the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 546, Licensing Vehicles for Hire. A, how to assist the fleet operators and standard taxi owners as to the financial sustainability within the vehicles for hire industry. B, consultations with the fleet operators and standard taxi car owners as well. And I'll be very brief on that one. I understand that part of the review and the purpose of it is to create a balance and a playing field is between the industry, and we hear quite a bit, and we know what's happening with UberX especially, and where there is a formula where people can compete openly and have an opportunity to prosper at the same time. The two-tier system that we have that was passed by council, and most of members of this committee, we did not support that, but that was, as you know, City Council is supreme in terms of decision-making, and but we didn't support that, and we know that where the problems lay at the moment, but I'm very confident that through the review that we are going through and all the directives that have been approved by City Council, all the directives from this committee will come in one single report, and I'm hoping that we're going to have a report, a bylaw, that's going to reflect that financial sustainability that the industry is looking for in terms of fairness and also in terms of creating something where everybody can prosper. Those are my brief comments. And we have all those motions there. Is just for clarification, Deputy Mayor, you move only one motion, or it was two? Yeah, but there was. Okay. Our members, we move them as a package. Are we okay?
I was
as a package. Okay. Okay, so let's go one by one. If you are okay with that as a package, we'll take it as a package. Okay, all those in favor of all the motions that are before us that we against and adopted as amended? All those in favor? Great, we have a point of order. And Councilor Burnside, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just April 24th, City Council passed LS 24.2 sub 6. It directed the Director, ED of MLS and the ED of Social Development to report back to the June 14th Licensing and Standards Committee on an item, and I didn't see that on the agenda. I'm trying to understand why.
Tracy?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Certainly my apologies to the councillor who moved that motion. We've been overwhelmed and we were not able to fulfill the request or direction.
When will the item come forward as part of the work plan?
First quarter 2019.
So to you, Mr. Chair, the issue related does tie to a bylaw review that we're doing. There is a broader ask in that regard. I'll be working with our partners in SDF&A to determine an appropriate time to bring forward that specific request. I do think it is fair and appropriate that I offer an apology on behalf of city staff that we should have made you aware that we were missing this agenda.
And so we have no idea of what agenda it's going to be on? Because I believe this is sort of part and parcel of an item that's been gone on for 5 years.
So through you, Mr. Chair.
Aspects.
Yes, so that is part, it came up through the work plan for our BRP, sorry, Body Rub Parlor article and holistics licensing article review under 545, which is long outstanding. We are coming back in 2019, and certainly the issues raised in that respect in regards to the motion that you had will be addressed in that report. There may be other reports on the matter. We'll work on that.
What do you think? And when in 2019?
I think we targeted Q2 2019.
Okay.
I can get back to you on that for sure.
Please do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. A motion to adjourn? All those in favor, against? Carry. Thanks so much. Oh, no problem, pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. What's the status and when can we expect?
And thank